Senator Butler from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If it's okay, I'd love to sort of go back to the point of conversation that Senator Tester actually introduced, and this question of who. There are a lot of perceptions that these kinds of scams and fraudulent activities happen mostly directed towards older people. And we've had a lot of conversation here about that. And I think it's important, as we have started to uncover in this hearing, that we paint a full picture of who actually are our victims and how they are being impacted. There's been some research put forward focused on Gen Z and their impact here. The 2022 Annual Cybersecurity Attitudes and Behaviors Report showed that Gen Z and millennials were actually more likely to fall victim to certain types of scams like phishing than other generations. The data also showed that Gen Z Americans were 3 times more likely to get caught up in online scams than boomers, and the cost of falling victim to online scams has risen. In 2017. Young victims under 20 are estimated to have lost $8.2 million in online scams, and that rose dramatically from 2017 to 2022, where that loss has now exceeded $210 million. Ms. Sanchez-Adams, I'd love to just start with you on this question. Given that the younger generations are already struggling financially compared to their parents and grandparents, are there specific examples that you're aware of that are happening in the financial services sector that are working with schools and youth organizations to raise greater awareness about online scams? We've talked a great deal about partnership here, and I'm trying to get at, are there actually targeted efforts focused on this younger population?
None that I am aware of.
Mr. Benda, do you have any specific examples that you're aware of?
ABA does run a Teach Children to Save effort where we partner with bankers and we go out to different communities to try and, it's a financial education, but also as a scam component.
Mr. Bale.
Senator Butler, at NCL, we have a program called LifeSmarts, which is targeted at high school students. And one of the parts of the curriculum at LifeSmarts is to teach younger consumers, particularly those in high school age, how to spot and avoid scams, including the ones that you just described. I would also just like to point out that while the numbers, you've talked about $210 million for losses, we've also talked about $9 billion in losses overall. I just think it's important to stress that those numbers, by almost every cybersecurity expert and fraud expert that we talk to, those numbers are a significant undercount.
Sure.
We know that consumers do not report these scams as much as they happen. So the numbers you hear are bad, but the real situation is likely much worse.
I appreciate you making that point, because a lot of that's a little bit of what I'm trying to get at. Young people are falling victim to these crimes, and the shame and stigma associated with, falling for them, being so stupid as the term was used earlier, to fall for them doesn't really help us get at prevention. And so I just wanted to follow up, Mr. Benda, Mr. Brayout, you mentioned some specific programs. Is there any information that you could share relative to scale of those programs? How many high schools are you working with? Are there, I have 6 million children who are residents of California. 1 in 4 American kids are residents of my state. And so I'm trying to figure out what is the scale at which we are actually moving, and if there are recommendations that you would have to get to a greater scale faster.
Senator, that program is run by our ABA Foundation, and they would love to share that detail with you. I'll make sure that we get that to you.
Sure.
And while our program reaches tens of thousands of students across the country, and the content reaches hundreds of thousands more, with additional resources, we can always reach more. But yes, certainly programs like LifeSmarts, programs like the one Mr. Benda discussed, do play a role in helping consumers build a resistance against these scams. But that's not the only thing that's going to stop this. We need legislation that actually goes at the incentives that companies have to actually protect their customers from these scams in the first place.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd love to submit a follow-up question for the record with the staff, but thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you, Senator Butler. Senator Reed of Rhode Island is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank the panel for their testimony. Ms. Sanchez Adams and Mr. Breo, the Electronic Fund Transfer Act and its implementing